First Contact, Humanity's Discovery. Now, I'll begin writing Part 1. First Contact, Humanity's Discovery, 2,000 words. The night sky of the Atacama Desert blazed with countless stars, their brilliance undiminished by human light pollution. Dr. Elena Reyes adjusted the massive radio telescope, its dish aimed at a previously unremarkable section of space. For months, her team had detected faint, repeating signals from this region, too regular to be natural, too complex to ignore. "Anything new, Doc?" asked Carlos, her brightest student, stifling a yawn as he handed her a steaming mug of coffee. Elena shook her head, eyes never leaving the monitors. "Not yet, but..." She froze, leaning closer to the screen. "Wait, there." A burst of data flooded their systems, a torrent of information unlike anything they'd ever seen. As the two scientists stared in awe, neither realized they were witnessing humanity's first true contact with an alien civilization, one that would change the course of history forever. Halfway across the world, in a nondescript office building in Washington, D.C., General Marcus Harding received an urgent, encrypted message. His weathered face grew grim as he read the contents, decades of military experience unable to fully prepare him for this moment. "Confirm the source," he barked into his secure line, "and get me the president. Now." Within hours, world leaders gathered in emergency sessions, intelligence agencies went into overdrive, and astronomers around the globe trained their instruments on the source of the mysterious signal. As dawn broke over the Atacama, Elena and her team found themselves at the center of a global storm. Dr. Reyes, a stern-faced woman in a crisp suit, addressed her. "I'm Agent Sarah Chen, UN Office for Outer Space Affairs. We need you to come with us immediately." Elena hesitated, torn between scientific curiosity and the sudden realization of the gravity of their discovery. "My team will be fully briefed and protected," Agent Chen assured her. "But right now, your expertise is needed at the highest levels." As Elena boarded a sleek, unmarked aircraft, she couldn't shake the feeling that humanity stood on the precipice of something monumental. The signal's complexity hinted at a civilization far beyond their own, its purpose still unclear. Would this be the dawn of a new age of enlightenment and cooperation, or the prelude to something far more ominous? Thousands of miles above the Earth's surface, hidden from even the most advanced human detection systems, a massive alien vessel emerged from Fold space. Its hull, an otherworldly alloy that seemed to absorb light rather than reflect it, bore the scars of countless battles across the cosmos. In the ship's command center, a being that could barely be described in human terms studied holographic projections of the blue planet below. High Commander Zaxlith had led the Vexari Imperion's expansion for centuries, conquering dozens of worlds across multiple galaxies. Yet something about this insignificant rock piqued his interest. "Analysis complete, Exalted One," a subordinate's voice chittered. "The dominant species possesses rudimentary space-flight capabilities and has achieved limited nuclear fusion. Their defenses are negligible." Zaxlith's tentacles rippled in what passed for amusement among his kind. And yet, they detected our long-range probe. Curious, he extended a limb, manipulating the holographic display to zoom in on major population centers. "Perhaps these humans will provide more support than we anticipated." Back on Earth, Elena found herself in a room she never imagined entering, the White House Situation Room. World leaders, top military brass, and scientific minds from across the globe were engaged in heated debate. "We can't just sit back and wait." General Harding's fist came down on the table. "If these aliens are hostile..." "We don't know that," Elena interjected, surprised by her own boldness. All eyes turned to her. "The signal we received, it's not just random noise. There's structure, complexity. It could be an attempt at communication." President Evelyn Carter, her face etched with the weight of the moment, leaned forward. "Dr. Reyes, you've studied this signal more than anyone. What exactly are we dealing with?" Elena took a deep breath. "Madam President, distinguished colleagues, what we're seeing is nothing short of revolutionary. The signal contains mathematical concepts far beyond our current understanding. It's as if someone handed Stone Age humans a quantum physics textbook. A murmur ran through the room. Elena continued, her excitement building. But here's the thing, it's not just advanced science. There are patterns that suggest, well, it's almost like they're testing us. Puzzles within puzzles. Whoever sent this wants to see if we can solve it. A test. The Chinese premier's voice crackled through a translator. To what end? Before Elena could respond, alarms blared throughout the complex. Screens flickered to life, showing satellite imagery of an object decelerating as it entered Earth's orbit, an object far larger than any human spacecraft. "My God," someone whispered. President Carter's voice cut through the chaos. "General Harding, what are our options?" The grizzled military man looked grim. "Limited, Madam President. We have no weapons systems capable of engaging a target of that size in orbit. We could attempt a nuclear strike, but—" "No," Elena said firmly, surprising herself again. "Madam President, please. We can't respond to first contact with aggression. This could be the most important moment in human history. We need to approach this with caution, yes, but also with an open mind." For a long moment, the fate of humanity hung in the balance as President Carter weighed her options. Finally, she nodded. "Dr. Reyes is right. We'll attempt communication first. But, General, I want our forces on high alert. If this turns hostile, we need to be ready." As the room erupted into action, Elena felt a mix of terror and exhilaration. Humanity's greatest challenge, and perhaps its greatest opportunity, had arrived. High above, Zaxlith observed the frantic activity on the planet below with growing interest. These humans were reacting faster, more cohesively than anticipated. Perhaps this conquest would not be as straightforward as he had initially thought. Exalted One, his subordinate interrupted, were detecting attempts at communication from the planet's surface. Zaxlith's alien features twisted into what passed for a smile among his species. "Excellent. Let us see what these humans have to say for themselves." He paused, tentacles writhing in anticipation. "Prepare the landing craft. I believe it's time we introduced ourselves properly." As the massive alien ship began its descent towards Earth, humanity collectively held its breath. In living rooms and public squares, on smartphones and giant screens in Times Square, billions watched in awe and fear as first contact became a reality. In the White House Situation Room, Elena Reyes stood at the center of a whirlwind of activity. Linguists, cryptographers, and first contact specialists from around the world had been patched in, all working feverishly to decipher the alien transmissions and formulate a response. "We're making progress," Elena reported, her voice hoarse from hours of non-stop work. "The mathematical basis of their language is becoming clearer. We think we can attempt basic communication." President Carter nodded grimly. "Do it, and pray they're here in peace." As Elena and her team scrambled to compose humanity's first official message to an alien species, military forces around the world mobilized. Fighter jets scrambled, missile systems came online, and soldiers prepared for the unknown. In orbit, Zaxlith watched the humans' preparations with growing respect. These creatures were resourceful, adaptable. It had been too long since the Vexari had faced a worthy challenge. "Your orders, Exalted One," his second-in-command inquired. Zaxlith's tentacles rippled with excitement. "Proceed with the landing. Let us see how these humans fare in the trials to come. Win or lose, their species will provide valuable data for the Imperium." As the alien craft pierced the atmosphere, leaving a trail of fire across the sky, humanity stood at the threshold of a new era. Whether it would be one of unprecedented cooperation and advancement or a desperate fight for survival remained to be seen. Elena Reyes, her heart pounding, sent humanity's first message to the stars. As the alien ship drew ever closer, she whispered a quiet prayer, not just for herself or her country, but for all of humanity. Let us be worthy of this moment. The invasion begins, Earth under siege. The alien ship's descent sent shockwaves across the globe, both literal and figurative. As it breached the atmosphere, sonic booms shattered windows and set off car alarms from Tokyo to New York. Panic gripped major cities, with streets clogging as people fled or sought shelter. Yet just as many remained, eyes skyward, watching history unfold. In the New Mexico desert, a hastily assembled team of scientists, diplomats, and military personnel waited with bated breath. Among them stood Elena Reyes, her mind racing with equal parts excitement and terror. The ship, a colossal structure that defied human engineering, touched down with surprising grace, kicking up a massive dust cloud. For several tense minutes, nothing happened. Then, with a hiss of depressurizing air, a section of the ship's hull began to shift and reform, creating an opening. A ramp extended to the ground, and out stepped beings that would forever change humanity's understanding of life in the universe. High Commander Zaxlith led the procession, his towering, multi-limbed form a stark contrast to the humans before him. Behind him came a contingent of Vexari warriors and scientists, each alien more bizarre and terrifying than the last. President Carter, who had insisted on being present despite her security team's objections, stepped forward. "On behalf of the people of Earth, I welcome you to our world," she began, her voice steady despite the circumstances. Zaxlith's response came not in words, but in a series of complex harmonics and subharmonic vibrations. The assembled human translators worked feverishly to decipher the alien language. Elena, drawing on her work with the original signal, was the first to grasp the meaning. Her face paled. "Madame President," she whispered urgently, "they're not here to talk. They're here to conquer." Before anyone could react, Zaxlith raised a limb. A pulse of energy erupted from a device on his exoskeleton, instantly disintegrating the front row of human guards. Chaos erupted as the remaining military personnel opened fire, their bullets seeming to have little effect on the alien invaders. "Get the president out of here," General Harding roared, bodily shoving Carter towards a waiting helicopter. He turned to Elena, his eyes wild. "Doctor, go with her. Your knowledge might be our only hope." Elena hesitated, watching in horror as the aliens cut down soldier after soldier with terrifying efficiency. A hand grabbed her arm. It was Carlos, her student, somehow here in the middle of this nightmare. "We have to go, Doc," he yelled over the din of battle. As the helicopter lifted off, Elena caught a final glimpse of the battlefield. The aliens were advancing, seemingly impervious to human weapons. And behind them, more ships were appearing in the sky. The invasion of Earth had begun. In the days that followed, major cities around the world fell to the Vexari onslaught. Their technology was centuries, perhaps millennia beyond humanity's. Traditional military tactics proved futile against an enemy that could manipulate gravity, project energy shields, and possess weaponry that seemed to defy the laws of physics. Yet humanity did not go quietly. In the face of overwhelming odds, people from all walks of life found reserves of courage and ingenuity they never knew they possessed. In London, a group of hackers managed to temporarily disrupt Vexari communications, buying precious time for evacuations. In Rio de Janeiro, civilians used improvised explosives to bring down an alien walker, proving the invaders weren't invincible. And in the mountains of Afghanistan, old enemies put aside their differences to wage a guerrilla war against the alien occupiers. Elena found herself in a hidden bunker deep beneath the Rocky Mountains, part of a think tank of the world's brightest minds, tasked with finding a way to turn the tide. The work was grueling, the pressure immense. Every day brought news of more cities falling, more lives lost. "We need to understand their technology," Elena insisted during yet another sleepless strategy session. "There has to be a weakness, something we can exploit." Dr. Yuki Tanaka, a brilliant physicist from Japan, shook her head. "Their tech operates on principles we can barely comprehend. It's like asking medieval peasants to understand a smartphone. Then we need to change our approach, Carlos interjected. The young man had proven invaluable, his outside-the-box thinking a perfect complement to Elena's methodical approach. Instead of trying to match their tech, why don't we look at what we have that they don't? The room fell silent, contemplating his words. It was General Harding who broke the silence with a harsh laugh. Kid, in case you haven't noticed, they've got us beat in every category. Not every category, Elena said slowly, an idea forming. They may have advanced technology, but they don't understand Earth. Our planet, our ecosystems, they're as alien to the Vexari as the Vexari are to us. A spark of hope ignited in the room. For the first time since the invasion began, they had the glimmer of a plan. Meanwhile, aboard the Vexari command ship, High Commander Zaxlith was growing frustrated. The humans were proving far more resilient than anticipated. Every victory came at a cost, and the Imperium's resources were not infinite. Status report, he demanded, his tentacles twitching with irritation. His second-in-command, Vexner, brought up a holographic display of the planet. We've secured major population centers on every continent, Exalted One, but resistance continues in less developed areas, and there are reports of unexpected difficulties. Zaxlith's eyes narrowed. Explain. Our troops are experiencing health issues, Exalted One. Nothing severe, but widespread. Respiratory problems, skin irritations. The planet's atmosphere seems to be having unforeseen effects on our biology. This was troubling news. The Vexari had conquered hundreds of worlds, but never one quite like Earth. Its teeming biodiversity, its complex ecosystems, they were proving to be more than just scenic obstacles. Increase the harvest of human test subjects, Zaxlith ordered. I want to know everything about their biology, their immunities. If this planet is poisoning us, we'll find a way to turn it against them instead. Back in the human resistance bunker, Elena and her team had made a breakthrough. They had discovered that certain frequencies, when broadcast at high intensity, seemed to interfere with Vexari technology. It wasn't much, but it was a start. We need to test this on a larger scale, Elena explained to the assembled military leaders. If it works, we might be able to create safe zones, areas where their tech doesn't function. General Harding nodded grimly. It's risky, but at this point, we're out of options. Where do you propose we try this? Elena took a deep breath. New York. It's still under human control, barely, but the aliens are closing in. If we can repel them there, it could be the turning point we need. The plan was set in motion. As Vexari forces converged on New York, humanity prepared for a stand that would determine the fate of the planet. The battle for New York was unlike anything in human history. Alien walkers stalked through the concrete canyons of Manhattan, their energy weapons carving swaths of destruction. Human fighters, a mix of military and civilian volunteers, fought street by street, building by building. And above it all, atop the Empire State Building, Elena and her team worked feverishly to activate their secret weapon. The Vexari, sensing the humans were up to something, threw everything they had at the iconic skyscraper. We need more time. Elena shouted over the sound of explosions. Carlos, blood-eyed but unbowed, worked alongside her, connecting cables and aligning antennas. Time's the one thing we don't have, Doc, he replied grimly. Just as it seemed the aliens would overwhelm them, the device sprang to life. A pulse of invisible energy radiated out across the city. For a moment, nothing seemed to happen. Then, one by one, the alien walkers began to stumble and fall. Vexari weapons sputtered and died. Their energy shields flickered and failed. A roar went up from the human defenders as they realized what was happening. For the first time since the invasion began, they had the upper hand. High Commander Zaxlith watched in disbelief as reports flooded in from his forces in New York. Impossible, he muttered. How had these primitive humans managed to neutralize Vexari technology? Your orders, Exalted One, Vexner asked, her voice tinged with fear. Zaxlith's mind raced. The humans had proven far more resourceful than he'd ever imagined. This was no longer a simple conquest. It was turning into a real war, and wars required sacrifices. "Initiate Protocol Omega," he commanded. "If we cannot have this world, no one will." As the aliens retreated from New York, humanity allowed itself a moment of celebration. But Elena knew the war was far from over. The Vexari would be back, and next time, they'd be ready for humanity's tricks. What no one realized was that high above the Earth, Zaxlif was preparing a weapon that would make their previous attacks look like mere skirmishes. The real battle for Earth's future was about to begin. As the sun set on a battered but unbroken New York City, Elena looked out over the scarred skyline. They had won a victory, but at what cost? And what new horrors did tomorrow hold? The war for Earth's survival was entering a new phase, and humanity would need every ounce of courage, ingenuity, and determination to weather the storm to come. Human ingenuity awakens, developing a defense. The victory in New York had given humanity a desperately needed morale boost, but Elena Reyes knew better than to celebrate prematurely. As she stood in the makeshift war room, surrounded by holographic displays of global battle zones, she couldn't shake the feeling that the Vexari were regrouping for something big. "We've managed to replicate the New York defense system in several major cities," General Harding was saying, his voice gruff with exhaustion. "But was spread thin. We don't have the resources to protect every population center." President Carter, her face lined with worry, nodded grimly. "What about smaller communities, rural areas?" Dr. Tanaka stepped forward, adjusting her glasses. "We're working on miniaturized versions of the disruptor technology. If we can mass-produce them, we might be able to create a network of protected zones." As the discussion continued, Carlos burst into the room, his eyes wide with excitement. "Doc, you need to see this." He thrust a tablet into Elena's hands. She scanned the data, her heart racing. "This can't be right. Are you sure?" Carlos nodded emphatically. "Triple-checked. It's real." Elena turned to the assembled leaders. "We've detected a massive energy buildup in the Vexari fleet. Whatever they're planning, it's big, and it's happening soon." The room erupted into a flurry of activity. As military commanders barked orders and politicians argued strategy, Elena pulled her core team aside. "We need to figure out what they're up to," she said, her voice low and urgent. "And we need to do it fast." Over the next 48 hours, Elena and her team worked tirelessly, analyzing every scrap of data they could get their hands on. They pored over satellite imagery, studied energy readings, and even risked sending drones dangerously close to Vexari ships to gather intelligence. It was Dr. Tanaka who finally put the pieces together. "It's a terraforming device," she said, her voice barely above a whisper. "They're going to try to alter Earth's atmosphere, make it more like their home world." The implications were staggering. If the Vexari succeeded, they would make the planet uninhabitable for humans while creating perfect conditions for their own species. "How long do we have?" Elena asked, dreading the answer. Dr. Tanaka's face was grim. "Based on the energy readings, less than a week." The news hit the war room like a physical blow. For a moment, even the usually stoic General Harding looked defeated. But Elena refused to give up. "We've come too far to roll over now," she said, her voice rising with determination. "We beat them in New York. We can beat them again." Carlos, ever the optimist, chimed in. "What if we could turn their own weapon against them? Use it to make Earth even more inhospitable to the Vexari?" The idea was audacious, perhaps even impossible, but as Elena looked around the room at the tired, determined faces of Earth's best and brightest, she knew they had to try. "All right," she said, a plan already forming in her mind. "Here's what we're going to do." Over the next few days, a plan of breathtaking audacity took shape. Using the disruptor technology they developed in New York as a starting point, Elena and her team worked to create a device that could interface with and potentially control the Vexari terraforming technology. It was a race against time, with the fate of humanity hanging in the balance. Scientists and engineers worked around the clock, fueled by caffeine and sheer determination. Military personnel trained for what would undoubtedly be the most important mission of their lives. And all around the world, ordinary citizens prepared for what could be humanity's final stand. As the deadline approached, Elena found herself standing before a room full of the world's most elite special forces operatives. These men and women would be responsible for getting the device onto the Vexari command ship and activating it. "I won't lie to you," Elena said, her voice steady despite her inner turmoil. "This mission is incredibly dangerous. Many of you might not come back. But if we succeed, we save our world. We save our species." The room was silent for a moment. Then, one by one, the soldiers stood, saluting Elena and volunteering for the mission. The sight brought tears to her eyes. As the team made their final preparations, Elena took a moment to step outside the bunker. The night sky was clear, the stars twinkling innocently above. Somewhere up there, the Vexari were preparing to end life as she knew it. Quite a view, isn't it? Elena turned to see Carlos standing beside her, his young face etched with a maturity beyond his years. "I used to look up there and dream about what might be out there," Elena said softly. "I never imagined this." Carlos nodded. "Me neither. But you know what? I wouldn't want to face this with anyone else. You've given us hope, Doc. You've given us a fighting chance." Elena felt a lump in her throat. "We all did this together, Carlos. Every scientist, every soldier, every ordinary person who refused to give up. That's humanity's real strength, our ability to come together in the face of adversity." As they stood there, contemplating the vastness of space and the enormity of the challenge before them, a sudden flash of light caught their attention. A massive Vexari ship was descending through the atmosphere, its hull glowing with the heat of re-entry. "It's starting," Elena whispered. Inside the Vexari command ship, High Commander Zaxlith surveyed the holographic display of Earth with a mixture of anticipation and frustration. These humans had proven far more troublesome than anticipated, but soon none of that would matter. "Begin the terraforming sequence," he ordered, his tentacles rippling with excitement. As the massive device powered up, Zaxlith allowed himself a moment of reflection. He had conquered many worlds in his long career, but none had put up a fight quite like this one. In a strange way, he almost admired the human's tenacity. "Exalted One," Vexina interrupted his thoughts. "We're detecting unusual energy readings from the planet's surface." Zaxlith's eyes narrowed. "Explain." Before Vexina could respond, alarms began blaring throughout the ship. The terraforming device's energy output was fluctuating wildly. "We're being hacked," a technician screeched. "The humans have somehow gained access to our systems." For the first time in his long life, Zaxlith felt a flicker of fear. These humans were full of surprises. On the ground, Elena and her team watched with bated breath as the hijacked Vexari technology went to work. Instead of making Earth more like the alien homeworld, it was intensifying the very aspects of Earth's environment that the Vexari found most inhospitable. The atmosphere grew thicker with oxygen, a poison to the alien invaders. Bacteria and other microorganisms that had proven harmful to Vexari biology were being supercharged and spread on a global scale. As reports began flooding in of Vexari soldiers collapsing and their technology malfunctioning, a cheer went up from the assembled humans. But Elena knew the battle was far from over. "We need to press our advantage," she urged the military commanders. "Hit them while they're vulnerable." Around the world, human forces launched a coordinated assault on Vexari positions. Tanks rolled through city streets, fighter jets screamed across the sky, and ordinary citizens armed with everything from hunting rifles to improvised weapons joined the fight. In orbit, the Vexari fleet was in chaos. Ships collided as their navigation systems failed, and escape pods jettisoned by the thousands, many burning up in the now hostile atmosphere. Aboard the command ship, Zaxlif fought to maintain control. "Retreat," he bellowed, his usual composure shattered. All forces returned to orbit immediately. But it was too late. The terraforming device, now fully under human control, sent out a final massive pulse of energy. Every Vexari ship within the Earth's orbit suddenly lost power, becoming dead weight in the sky. Elena watched in awe as the massive alien vessels began to fall, streaking across the sky like artificial meteors. It was beautiful and terrifying in equal measure. "We did it," Carlos breathed, his voice filled with disbelief. "We actually did it." But Elena's scientific mind was already racing ahead. "We're not done yet," she said, her voice tight with urgency. "Those ships are going to impact all over the planet. We need to coordinate global response teams, minimize casualties and environmental damage." As the world celebrated its improbable victory, Elena and her team threw themselves into this new challenge. The war might be over, but the work of rebuilding and preparing for whatever else the universe might throw at them was just beginning. In the days that followed, humanity began the monumental task of cleaning up after the invasion. Downed Vexari ships became impromptu research facilities, with scientists from around the world working to unlock the secrets of alien technology. Elena found herself at the forefront of this effort, leading a team dedicated to reverse engineering Vexari propulsion systems. The potential for advancing human space travel was enormous. As she worked, she couldn't help but wonder about the wider galaxy. The Vexari had come from somewhere, and there was no guarantee they were the only hostile species out there. But now, humanity knew it could stand up to even the most advanced civilizations. Whatever came next, Earth would be ready, and Elena Reyes, along with countless other unsung heroes, would be there to face it head-on. The invasion had nearly broken humanity, but in the end, it had only made them stronger. United by a common threat, the people of Earth had discovered reservoirs of courage, ingenuity, and determination they never knew they possessed. As Elena looked out over the bustling research facility, watching humans and a handful of captured Vexari working side by side to unlock the mysteries of the universe, she felt a surge of hope for the future. The stars no longer seemed like distant, unreachable points of light. They were destinations, full of both peril and promise. And humanity was ready to take its first real steps into that vast, unknown frontier. Unlikely alliances, cooperation in crisis. 6 months after the Vexari invasion, Earth was a changed world. The scars of battle were still visible in many places, but so too were signs of unprecedented progress. Humanity had taken its first tentative steps towards becoming a true spacefaring civilization, leveraging salvaged alien technology to push the boundaries of what was possible. Elena Reyes stood in the control room of the newly christened United Earth Space Agency, watching as the first human-piloted ship, equipped with Vexari-derived faster-than-light drive, prepared for its maiden voyage. It was a moment of triumph, but also one of apprehension. "Final systems check complete," Carlos reported, his voice crackling over the comm system. The young scientist had volunteered to be part of the ship's crew, much to Elena's mix of pride and concern. "We're ready for launch, Doc." Elena took a deep breath, keenly aware of the weight of this moment. "Godspeed, Prometheus," she said, using the ship's call sign. "You're carrying the hopes and dreams of all humanity with you." As the sleek vessel rose from its launch pad, leaving a trail of blue flame in its wake, Elena allowed herself a small smile. They had come so far in such a short time. But her moment of reflection was interrupted by an urgent alert from the Global Defense Network. "Dr. Reyes," a technician called out, his voice tense. "We're detecting multiple fold space ruptures in high Earth orbit. Signatures match Vexari designs, but they're different somehow." Elena's heart raced as she hurried to the main display. The readings were clear. A new fleet of alien ships had arrived. But unlike the aggressive posture of the invasion force, These vessels were holding position, broadcasting on all frequencies. "They're hailing us," the communications officer reported, sounding bewildered. For a moment, the control room was silent, the weight of déjà vu hanging heavy in the air. Then Elena straightened her back, determination etched on her face. "Put them through," she ordered. The main screen flickered to life, revealing a sight that made Elena's breath catch in her throat. The being addressing them was clearly Vexari, but unlike any they had encountered before, its form was more streamlined, almost elegant, and its eyes held an intelligence that seemed somehow different from the cold calculation of Zaxlith and his warriors. "People of Earth," the alien began, its words translated by the advanced linguistic algorithms developed during the war. "I am Zenra, emissary of the Vexari Rebellion. We come seeking asylum and alliance." The control room erupted into a flurry of activity. Security protocols were engaged, world leaders were notified, and heated debates broke out among the assembled staff. But Elena remained focused on the screen, studying the alien emissary intently. "Emissary Xenra," she said, choosing her words carefully. "Your people invaded our world, caused untold destruction and loss of life. Why should we believe you now?" Xenra's tendrils rippled in what Elena had come to recognize as a sign of distress. "The actions of the Imperium do not represent all Vexari," the emissary explained. "Many of us have long opposed their policy of conquest. The defeat you dealt them has sparked a revolution across our worlds. But the Imperium is vast, and their retribution will be swift. We need your help, just as you may need ours for what is to come." Elena's mind raced with the implications. A Vexari civil war could have dire consequences for Earth if it spilled into their solar system. But an alliance with a friendly faction could also provide invaluable insights and technological advancements. "We'll need time to discuss your proposal," Elena said finally. "In the meantime, you are to maintain your current position. Any aggressive movement will be met with immediate force." Zenra bowed its head in acknowledgement. "We understand, and we will comply. We await your decision." As the transmission ended, Elena turned to face the expectant faces of her team. "Get me the President and the United Nations Security Council," she said, her voice steady despite the turmoil in her mind. "We have a lot to discuss." The next few days were a whirlwind of diplomatic negotiations, scientific analysis, and military strategizing. Elena found herself at the center of it all, her expertise in both Vexari technology and first contact protocols making her an invaluable asset. World leaders were divided on how to proceed. Some advocated for immediate military action, arguing that this could be a trick to lower Earth's defenses. Others saw the potential benefits of an alliance, especially in the face of a possible renewed threat from the Vexari Imperium. It was during one particularly heated debate that Carlos, newly returned from his space mission, made a suggestion that would change everything. "What if we invited a delegation to Earth?" he proposed. "Under strict supervision, of course. It would allow us to study them up close, verify their claims, and maybe even learn more about their technology." The idea was controversial, but after much deliberation, it was approved. A small group of Vexari rebels, led by Xenra, was permitted to land at a specially prepared facility in the Atacama Desert, the very place where Elena had first detected the alien signal that started it all. As Elena prepared to meet the delegation, she couldn't help but reflect on the incredible journey that had brought her to this point. From a simple radio astronomer to a key figure in humanity's first extraterrestrial alliance negotiations, it was almost too much to comprehend. The meeting was tense at first. Despite all the preparations, seeing the Vexari up close brought back painful memories of the invasion for many of the human participants. But as discussions progressed, a surprising rapport began to develop. Zenra and the other rebels proved to be far different from the cold, ruthless invaders they had faced before. They were curious, even enthusiastic about human culture and achievements. They shared stories of their own worlds, of the oppression they had faced under the Imperium, and of their hopes for a more peaceful future. Elena found herself particularly drawn to a young Vexari scientist named Zalthix. Its grasp of advanced physics was breathtaking, and together they began exploring new theories that combined the best of human and Vexari understanding. "Your species' adaptability is remarkable," Zalfix commented one day as they worked. "In all our travels, we've never encountered a race quite like yours." Elena smiled, remembering the desperate days of the invasion. "We had no choice but to adapt," she said. "It was that or extinction." Zolfix's tendrils rippled in what Elena now recognized as a sign of admiration. "Perhaps that is what the Imperium fears most about you," it mused. "Your potential is unsettling to those used to being in control." As the days turned into weeks, the unlikely alliance began to bear fruit. Vexari technology, combined with human ingenuity, led to breakthroughs in energy production, medicine, and space exploration. Plans were drawn up for a joint defense system to protect Earth from any future invasions. But it wasn't all smooth sailing. Protests erupted in cities around the world, with some humans unwilling to trust any Vexari after the horrors of the invasion. Political opposition grew, with accusations of naivety and recklessness leveled at those supporting the alliance. Elena found herself thrust into the public eye, defending the cooperation on news broadcasts and before government committees. It was a role she never imagined for herself, but one she embraced with the same determination she had shown throughout the crisis. "I understand the fear," she said during one particularly contentious hearing. "I felt it too, but we can't let that fear define us." This alliance represents an opportunity not just for scientific advancement, but for growing beyond our own limited perspective. We have a chance to be part of something greater than ourselves. As the debate raged on Earth, troubling reports began to come in from the edges of the solar system. Long-range sensors, enhanced with Vexari technology, had detected large-scale fleet movements. The Imperium was on the move, and it seemed Earth might once again be in its sights. In a secure briefing room deep beneath Washington, D.C., Elena laid out the situation to a grim-faced assembly of world leaders and military commanders. "The good news is, we're in a much better position to defend ourselves than we were during the first invasion," she explained, gesturing to a holographic display of Earth's new defense systems. "The bad news is, the Imperium will have learned from their mistakes. They'll be coming with everything they have." President Carter, her face lined with the stress of her position, leaned forward. "And what do our allies suggest?" Zenra, now a trusted advisor, stepped forward. "We believe the Imperium will attempt to cut off your solar system from the rest of the galaxy," it said. "They'll use their fold space technology to create a barrier, isolating Earth and preventing any outside help from reaching you." The room erupted into concerned murmurs. General Harding's gruff voice cut through the noise. "Can we stop them?" Elena and Zenra exchanged a look. "Maybe," Elena said cautiously. "But we'll need to take the fight to them. We need to strike first, hit them before they can set up the barrier." The implications were staggering. What Elena was proposing wasn't just a defensive action, but humanity's first interstellar military campaign. The risks were enormous, but so too were the consequences of inaction. As the debate raged on, Elena found her mind drifting to the Prometheus, still out there exploring the nearby stars, to Carlos and the other brave souls pushing the boundaries of human experience, to all the people of Earth still rebuilding, still hoping for a better future. The decision they made here, in this room, would shape the destiny of not just humanity, but potentially all sentient life in this part of the galaxy. The weight of that responsibility was almost crushing, but Elena squared her shoulders, ready to face whatever came next. As the meeting concluded and plans were set in motion, Elena stepped outside for a moment of quiet reflection. The night sky stretched above her, the stars no longer just distant points of light, but beacons of both promise and peril. Humanity had survived its trial by fire. Now, united with unlikely allies, they prepared to take their first real steps into the cosmic arena. Whatever the future held, Elena knew one thing for certain: it would be an adventure unlike any other. With a deep breath, she turned and walked back into the building. There was work to be done, a future to be shaped, and Elena Reyes, once a simple radio astronomer, now found herself at the very heart of humanity's greatest journey. The stars awaited, and Earth would meet them head-on. The turning point: humanity fights back. The next few months were a whirlwind of activity as Earth prepared for its first interstellar military campaign. The entire planet was mobilized, with every nation contributing resources, personnel, and expertise to the cause. The alliance with the Vexari rebels proved invaluable, their advanced knowledge helping to rapidly upgrade Earth's fledgling space fleet. Elena found herself at the heart of it all, coordinating between human scientists, military strategists, and their Vexari allies. The stress was immense, but she drew strength from the unity and determination she saw all around her. As the deadline approached, Elena stood on the bridge of the ESS Titan, Earth's first true battleship. The vessel was a marvel of hybrid technology, combining the best of human innovation with Vexari engineering. Around it, a fleet of smaller craft prepared for the jump to fold space. Final systems check complete. Carlos reported from his station. Her former student had become one of Earth's top experts in Vexari propulsion systems. All ships report ready, Doc. Elena nodded, trying to quell the butterflies in her stomach. This was it, the moment that would decide the fate of Earth and possibly the entire galaxy. She turned to address the assembled crew, her voice carried to every ship in the fleet. Today, we take the fight to those who sought to conquer us, she began, her voice steady despite her nerves. But we do so not out of vengeance, but out of necessity. We fight not just for Earth, but for all beings who value freedom and self-determination. Whatever happens next, know that you are making history. Good luck and Godspeed. With a final nod to the captain, Elena gave the order. Initiate fold space jump. The sensation was unlike anything Elena had ever experienced. For a moment, reality seemed to twist and bend around them. Then, with a flash of light, the fleet emerged on the edge of the distant star system. Before them lay the massive Vexari Imperium Armada, caught off guard by the sudden appearance of the Earth fleet. For a moment, both sides seemed frozen in shock. Then all hell broke loose. Energy beams lanced across space, missiles streaked between ships, and fighters engaged in deadly dances among the larger vessels. The battle was chaotic, with the superior numbers of the Imperium offset by the element of surprise and the advanced technology of the Earth Rebel Alliance. Elena worked frantically at her station, coordinating with Zenra to analyze the enemy's tactics and devise countermeasures. The Vexari rebels' insider knowledge proved crucial, allowing the Earth fleet to exploit weaknesses in Imperium defenses. Hours passed in a blur of tense moments and split-second decisions. The battle hung in the balance, with neither side able to gain a decisive advantage. Then, a transmission cut through the chaos. "This is the Prometheus," a familiar voice crackled over the comm. "We're picking up massive energy signatures from the far side of the system. Looks like they're powering up some kind of superweapon." Elena's heart raced. The Prometheus, under Carlos' command, had been on a long-range reconnaissance mission. Their return couldn't have been more timely. "Can you get us visual confirmation?" Elena asked, her mind already racing through possibilities. The main view screen flickered to life, showing a massive construct unlike anything they had ever seen. It was a sphere of impossible size, with energy patterns swirling across its surface. Senra's tendrils writhed in alarm. By the cosmic core, it breathed. "That's a nexus gate. If they activate it, they could bring reinforcements from across the galaxy. We'd be overwhelmed in minutes." Elena's mind raced. They couldn't let that happen, but their fleet was fully engaged with the Imperium forces. There was no way to divert enough firepower to take out the Nexus Gate before it activated. Then an idea struck her. It was risky, possibly suicidal, but it might be their only chance. "Carlos," she said, her voice tense with urgency. "How close can you get the Prometheus to that thing?" There was a moment of silence as Carlos realized what she was suggesting. "Close enough, he finally replied, determination evident in his voice. Elena turned to the captain. "We need to open a hole in the Imperium lines. Give the Prometheus a clear shot at that gate." The next few minutes were a frenzy of activity as the fleet reoriented its attack. Ships moved with precision, creating a narrow corridor through the heart of the battle. The Prometheus streaked through, engines straining as it pushed to maximum speed. "Elena," Carlos' voice came through, tight with tension. "Whatever you're planning, we're going to need it soon. This thing's about to go hot." Elena took a deep breath, steeling herself. "Prometheus, prepare to initiate a targeted fold space jump. We're going to turn their own technology against them." The plan was audacious. By initiating a fold space jump at the precise moment the Nexus gate activated, they hoped to create a cascading reaction that would tear the construct apart. But the timing had to be perfect, and the slightest miscalculation could result in the total destruction of the Prometheus and its crew. As the Nexus gate began to pulse with energy, Elena watched the Prometheus approach on the tactical display. Her heart pounded in her chest, every second feeling like an eternity. "Now, Carlos," she shouted as the gate reached critical energy levels. For a moment, nothing seemed to happen. Then, with a flash of light that momentarily outshone the system's star, the Nexus gate imploded. The shockwave rippled outward, catching the unprepared Imperium fleet and sending ships tumbling through space. As the light faded, Elena frantically searched the tactical display. "Prometheus, report. Carlos, are you there?" Seconds ticked by with no response. Elena felt her throat tighten, fear gripping her heart. Then, finally, a crackle of static. "Prometheus here," Carlos' voice came through, sounding dazed but very much alive. "I don't know how, but we made it. That was one hell of a light show, Doc." A cheer went up across the bridge of the Titan, echoed throughout the fleet. The destruction of the Nexus gate had turned the tide of the battle. Without reinforcements, and with their flagship crippled by the shockwave, the Imperium forces began to retreat. As the last enemy ships disappeared into fold space, leaving behind a field of debris and disabled vessels, Elena allowed herself a moment to breathe. They had done it. Against all odds, humanity had stood up to one of the most powerful forces in the galaxy and emerged victorious. But even as the celebration began, Elena knew their work was far from over. The Imperium had been dealt a significant blow, but it was vast and would not give up easily. And now, for better or worse, Earth had announced its presence on the galactic stage. In the days that followed, as the fleet began the journey home, Elena found herself in numerous strategy sessions. The victory had opened up new possibilities, but also new dangers. Earth would need to be prepared for whatever came next. "We should press our advantage," General Harding argued during one such meeting. "Take the fight to their core worlds or they're still reeling." But Zenra shook its head. "The Imperium is weakened, yes, but not defeated. Such an action could unite them against us. We need to be strategic." Elena listened to the debate, her mind working on a different track. "What if," she said slowly, "we did something unexpected? Instead of more fighting, what if we extended an offer of peace?" The room fell silent, all eyes turning to her. Elena continued, her confidence growing. "Think about it. We've proven we're not an easy target. Now we have a chance to show we're not conquerors either. It could change the whole dynamic of galactic politics." The idea was met with skepticism at first, but as discussions continued, its potential became clear. A peace offer, backed by the demonstrated strength of the Earth Rebel Alliance, could potentially fracture the Imperium further and lead to a more stable galactic community. As they neared Earth, the final plans were put into place. Elena, as the architect of the strategy, would lead a diplomatic mission to the Imperium capital. It was a dangerous assignment, but one she felt compelled to undertake. The return to Earth was met with jubilant celebration. Millions lined the streets as the heroes of the battle were paraded through major cities. Elena found the attention overwhelming. But she drew strength from the hope she saw in people's eyes. They had faced the unknown and emerged stronger for it. In a quiet moment amidst the festivities, Elena stood with Carlos, looking up at the night sky. The stars seemed different now, full of both promise and challenge. "So," Carlos said, a hint of his old mischievous grin on his face, "ready for another adventure?" Elena laughed, feeling a mix of excitement and trepidation. "You know, a few years ago, I would have said I was happy just listening to the stars. Now look at us, about to go negotiate interstellar peace." Carlos nodded, his expression turning serious. "It's a big responsibility. But if anyone can do it, it's you, Doc. You've guided us this far." Elena felt a wave of gratitude for her friend and colleague. "We did this together," she said. "All of us. And whatever comes next, we'll face it the same way." As they stood there, contemplating the vast expanse above them, Elena felt a sense of profound change. Humanity had taken its first real steps into the cosmic community. There would be challenges ahead, dangers they couldn't even imagine, but they would face them with the same courage, ingenuity, and unity that had brought them this far. The stars were no longer distant points of light. They were beacons, calling humanity to a grand adventure. And Elena Reyes, once a simple radio astronomer, now found herself at the forefront of that journey. As she prepared for the diplomatic mission that could reshape the galaxy, Elena felt a mix of fear and exhilaration. Whatever happened next, one thing was certain: the universe would never be the same again. And neither would humanity. A new era, Earth's place in the cosmos. The journey to the Vexari Imperium capital was tense, filled with equal parts anticipation and apprehension. Elena Reyes stood on the bridge of the diplomatic vessel, the ESS Horizon, watching the swirling patterns of fold space through the viewscreen. Beside her, Zenra's tendrils twitched nervously. "Are you sure about this, Elena?" the Vexari rebel asked, its voice low. "The High Council is not known for its flexibility." Elena nodded, her face set with determination. "We have to try. This could be our best chance to establish lasting peace." As they dropped out of fold space, the Imperium capital came into view. It was a massive construct, a blend of planetoid and space station that dwarfed anything humanity had ever built. Elena felt a momentary twinge of doubt, but she pushed it aside. They had come too far to falter now. The reception was cold, but not openly hostile. Elena and her team, a mix of humans and Vexari rebels, were escorted to the High Council chamber. The room was vast, its ceiling lost in shadow, with tiered seating surrounding a central platform. As Elena stepped onto the platform to address the council, she felt the weight of history on her shoulders. This moment could shape the future of not just Earth, but the entire galaxy. "Esteemed members of the High Council," she began, her voice steady. "I come before you today not as a conqueror, but as an envoy of peace. The recent conflict between our peoples has caused great suffering on both sides. We propose an end to hostilities and the beginning of a new era of cooperation." Murmurs rippled through the chamber. One council member, its form more massive and ornate than the others, leaned forward. "You dare to offer terms after the destruction you've caused. The Imperium does not negotiate with lesser species." Elena stood her ground. "With respect, Councillor, recent events have shown that we are not as lesser as you might think. We've demonstrated our ability to defend ourselves, yes, but we've also shown our capacity for mercy. We could have pressed our advantage after the battle, but instead, we chose to seek peace." She paused, letting her words sink in. "Moreover, we come offering something the Imperium has never had before, a willing and equal alliance. Think of the advancements we could make together, the mysteries of the universe we could unlock." The debate that followed was intense. Some council members were intrigued by the idea, seeing the potential benefits of peace. Others advocated for immediate retaliation, arguing that showing weakness would invite further rebellion. As the arguments grew heated, Elena played her final card. Before you make your decision, she said, her voice cutting through the clamor, there's something you should see. With a nod to her team, a holographic display flickered to life in the center of the chamber. It showed footage from Earth, sprawling cities, lush forests, teeming oceans. But more than that, it showed humanity in all its diversity and creativity. Children playing, scientists at work, artists creating, people of all races and backgrounds living and working together. This is what you would destroy, Elena said softly. A world of infinite potential, of beauty and complexity that rivals anything in the galaxy. We don't want to be your enemies. We want to be your partners in exploring the wonders of the cosmos. The chamber fell silent as the council members watched, many seeing Earth for the first time not as a strategic target, but as a living, breathing world. The lead councillor's tendrils rippled thoughtfully. You speak of partnership, it said slowly, but how can we trust a species that has caused us such loss? Elena smiled. By taking the first step together, we propose a cultural exchange program. Let our people learn from each other. Let us share knowledge, art, philosophy. In understanding one another, we can build trust. The deliberations that followed lasted for days. Elena and her team worked tirelessly, answering questions, providing information, and negotiating terms. It was grueling work, but slowly progress was made. Finally, after what felt like an eternity, an agreement was reached. The Vexari Imperium would recognize Earth's sovereignty and the right of the rebel faction to self-governance. In exchange, Earth would share its unique scientific and cultural knowledge and work with the Imperium to establish new protocols for first contact with other species. As Elena put her hand, and Zenra its tendril, to the historic peace accord, she felt a profound sense of accomplishment tinged with the weight of new responsibility. This was only the beginning. The return journey to Earth was filled with a mix of exhaustion and exhilaration. As the ESS Horizon dropped out of fold space in Earth's orbit, Elena gasped. A massive crowd of ships, from official welcoming committees to civilian crafts, had gathered to greet them. The celebrations that followed were unlike anything in human history. People of all nations came together, united in their joy and pride at humanity's new place in the cosmos. The streets of every major city were filled with parades, the night skies lit up with fireworks that for once didn't remind anyone of invasion but of hope. In the months and years that followed, the galaxy watched in fascination as humanity burst onto the interstellar scene. The cultural exchange program was a resounding success, with Vexari artists collaborating with human musicians, scientists from both species making groundbreaking discoveries together, and a new form of hybrid cuisine taking the galaxy by storm. Earth itself was transforming. The influx of advanced technology, carefully monitored and integrated, led to rapid advancements in clean energy, medicine, and space travel. New cities rose, designed with both human and alien inhabitants in mind. The first human colonies on Mars and Europa flourished, serving as way stations for humanity's further expansion into space. Elena found herself busier than ever, dividing her time between Earth and various alien worlds. She led diplomatic missions, oversaw scientific collaborations, and worked tirelessly to ensure that humanity's growth was balanced and sustainable. 5 years after the peace accord, Elena stood on the observation deck of Harmony Station, a massive space habitat in Earth orbit that served as a neutral meeting ground for various galactic species. Beside her stood Carlos, Zenra, and representatives from a dozen different alien races. "It's amazing, isn't it?" Carlos mused, gazing out at the blue marble of Earth below. "Sometimes I still can't believe how far we've come." Elena nodded, a smile playing on her lips. "It hasn't all been easy," she said. "There have been setbacks, misunderstandings, but look at what we've achieved together." Zenra's tendrils rippled in agreement. "Your species continues to surprise us, Elena. Your adaptability, your creativity, you've brought a new vitality to the galactic community." As they talked, alert chimed softly. A new ship was arriving, one not registered in any known database. The group watched as a vessel of unfamiliar design dropped out of Fold's space. First contact, Elena breathed, feeling a familiar mix of excitement and apprehension. Looks like our work is far from over. As the observation deck burst into activity, Elena felt a surge of pride and determination. Humanity had faced its trial by fire and emerged stronger, wiser, and ready to take its place among the stars. Whatever challenges the universe had in store, they would face them together, with courage, compassion, and an unquenchable spirit of exploration. The unknown ship drew closer, its intentions yet to be discovered. But Elena Reyes, once a simple radio astronomer, and now one of humanity's foremost ambassadors to the stars, was ready. This was what they had prepared for. This was humanity's destiny. As she stepped forward to coordinate Earth's response to this new potential ally or threat, Elena couldn't help but smile. The universe was vast, full of wonders and dangers beyond imagination. But humanity was ready. They had found their place in the cosmos, and they would continue to grow, to learn, and to reach for the stars. The adventure, it seemed, was only just beginning. As the new alien ship initiated communication, Elena took a deep breath, centered herself, and prepared to once again guide humanity through the complex dance of interstellar diplomacy. The stars had called, and humanity had answered. Now they would help shape the very future of the galaxy. With a nod to her team, Elena opened the channel to the unknown vessel. This is Dr. Elena Reyes of Earth, representing the United Galactic Council. On behalf of all sentient species, we welcome you and extend our hands in friendship. As she waited for a response, Elena felt the familiar thrill of discovery, the excitement of the unknown. This was why they had fought so hard, why they had persevered through invasion and war. Not just to survive, but to thrive, to explore, to continually push the boundaries of what was possible. The universe was vast and full of mysteries, but humanity, with its unique blend of resilience, creativity, and compassion, was ready to help unlock those mysteries. Together with their new allies, they would forge a future brighter than any single species could create alone. As the first words from the new alien race came through, Elena smiled. Another chapter in humanity's greatest adventure was about to begin, and she, along with all of Earth, was ready to embrace it with open arms and open minds. The cosmos awaited, full of endless possibilities, and humanity, at last, was ready to meet its destiny among the stars.